we're here to talk about manipulation in the art market as you perceive it. So we know that the art market is an industry by appointment, as Erik might say. There's tons of insider information. There's tons of opacity. But who cares? Who cares if some Russian billionaire ends up spending, $10 million too much for Picasso? So what?
Yes, hi, Olivia. Indeed, the art market has been like a pet industry, or more even a hobby for many, many people for many, many years. The way it evolved in the last few years was kind of explosive. You mentioned the $2.3 billion of auction. I think it's interesting to take a step back and look at the evolution. You can see on the graph I've given to you that massive evolution. If you look at the turnover of artists born after 1950, shown in 2001 on a worldwide basis, at the time the total volume was $48 million. Right now it is about $900 million, which means that in 6 years the increase has been 21 times. So you can imagine that from 48 million, which was interesting absolutely no one, neither regulator, neither observer, suddenly we are in a market that needs some kind of more attention, because it's bringing some more shady kind of characters.
Okay, but Alain, shady characters perhaps, the threat of counterfeit, and lots of questions I'm sure about provenance, the dog auction houses like Sotheby's and Christie's all the time. But I think of the art market like I think of the institutional trading market. These are big boys, right? These people who are spending tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars on pieces of art ought to be aware of the risks that they're taking and act accordingly. Why do they need oversight?
Fair remark, and that's what the headlines are focusing on, is the $150 million things. The problem, it is like a pyramid, and that pyramid is going down up to the artists that you will possibly buy for yourself, for your new house or your new apartment. And that's having an impact on the whole chain, because that kind of element of speculation, and not really always very clear speculation, is having impact up to the schools themselves. And this is why I'd like to draw attention to this, because I am an investment banker, but also a collector and a passionate collector. And I would like that we can still find the quality art that we've been seeing in the last hundreds of years, but that it will keep going in the future.
So, Alain, what do you think would be the optimal way to regulate the art market?
There's, first of all, it should start with a self-regulation. It's very surprising still that in an industry that is in the billion, which is still nothing in comparison with Wall Street, of course, there's absolutely not even a professional association, not even the most basic of the contract. Just to explain to you something that will surprise you, is that the most precious asset of most of galleries are their artists. But I would say that 80 to 90% of the case, there's absolutely no contract between the artist and the galleries, which means that the artist can move out through the door as their main assets any time. And it's where at the moment there's a heavy competition and dangerous competition for the whole ecosystem, is that big galleries are trying to attract the most valuable and more bankable artists. So that's one of the points, is already bringing some kind of standards, ethical behavior, best behaviors, to start putting it together. After that, when the kind of self-regulation is setting in, then maybe it could be set in stone by the regulator and by the public authorities.
So, Alain, you refer specifically to galleries. I'm going to go back to auction houses for a moment, principally Sotheby's and Christie's. Do they do a good enough job? Because I look at the role that they play as a slightly conflicted role, like the underwriter in an IPO. Who's the client? Is it the company selling shares, or is it the buyer of the shares? It seems as though those auction houses face the same conflict.
So the auction houses, yeah, they're doing a pretty good job. They are the only kind of corporate mentality in this entire organization. When you're talking about, could you repeat the question? I didn't get it specifically. There was a jump in my ear.
Sorry.
Could you repeat the question, please?
Yes, of course. I want to know whether the auction houses, I see the auction houses as being conflicted because they're trying to serve two kinds of clients at the same time. the individual or organization selling the art, and then the individual or organization buying the art, and they have two entirely different sets of interests.
Yes, indeed, and you're perfectly right to underline this. And it's a little bit a problem that we see across the whole market, is that you don't really know who's in front of you and who is serving you. So you're talking about the auction houses, definitely. Who is the client? Is it the seller who's paying an 8% commission for selling his ware to the auction houses? Or is it the buyer who will pay a commission between 25 going down to 12%? And indeed, it is sometimes a little bit problematic. You know, I've been trading on Wall Street and still going down Wall Street. We still had an auction, and in the public auction, you knew exactly the rules. In the auction houses, you still have, you know, strange elements like called the chandelier bidding, where the auctioneer can go up even if there are no buyers until the reserve. It is kind of confusing, certainly for the non-experts. But indeed, we need some clarification even at the auction house level too.